Hi, I'm Jeff Hajek, the owner and founder of Relaction. This video is part of my lean training system. It was originally released as a DVD a long time ago, but times have changed and the look of some of these LTS videos is now a bit dated. The content is still spot on though, so rather than just discontinue the line, I am posting the majority of each of the 36 videos here, with the remainder available at Relaction Videos. That's our video service where you can download a wealth of supporting content and watch subscriber-only videos. I recommend subscribing and hitting the notification button if you want to make sure you don't miss any new content. I would also really appreciate if you would hit the like button if this video is helpful and you want to see more content similar to it. The like button helps us get found on YouTube, but it also lets us figure out where you want us to put our future effort. Now enjoy the free version of this video.
Welcome to Relaction Continuous Improvement's presentation on waste identification. I am Jeff Hajek, the founder of Relaction and the award-winning author of What Do You Mean I Gotta Be Lean? Before we get started, I want to let you know about the great supporting content we have on our website at www.relaction.com. A lot of the information is free, including our waste recording form, so you can get started improving flow in your organization without a lot of expense. As we move through this training, I'd like you to focus on a few key takeaways. Specifically, think about how waste is defined in a lean organization, how to categorize waste to make it easier to identify and eliminate, and how to use the waste recording form to go through an operation with a fine-toothed comb. A great place to start in any discussion about waste is to clearly define what it is. In short, waste occurs when you expend resources without adding value, or more accurately, without adding as much value as you could be adding. As we'll talk about in more detail later, waste likes to hide behind work that looks like it is adding value. Even more challenging for many people is the fact that something that was considered value added today will likely be thought of as waste at some point in the future. Think of gas mileage. 20 years ago, a car that got 20 or 25 miles to the gallon was thought of as efficient. Nowadays, mileage in the high 30s is commonplace, and cars just keep going further on a tank of gas. Or consider driving to the video rental store. It used to seem necessary, but now people just walk to their mailbox. And even that is starting to seem more wasteful as more and more video is available for immediate download. The same thing even happens in your company. Perhaps a physical filing system has gone extinct with the advent of electronic databases. The short of it is that nothing in the world of waste stays the same for very long. You have to stay diligent to keep it to a minimum.
I hope you are getting something valuable out of this video. If you want to get more out of this program, we recommend watching it on Relaction Videos. You'll be able to watch the entire video, mostly ad-free, and view subscriber-only programs. You'll also have access to a load of continuous improvement downloads.
I've mentioned the term value a few times. It is a concept that is closely associated with waste, but one that does not have a universally agreed upon meaning. The definition varies a bit depending on who you hear it from. Some people say it is a reflection on a customer's willingness to pay for something. Others base it on whether it changes the form, fit, or function of a product or service. In addition to the term value, you may also hear a task referred to as either value added or value adding. The two terms are pretty much a personal preference and are used interchangeably. But regardless of how you specifically define the term, everyone agrees that more value for the same cost is good. So this table takes that concept of value and compares it to another factor, necessity. Obviously, if an action is both value added and necessary, you should keep doing it, as it creates profit. But what about if something is considered value added by a customer, but is actually unnecessary? This is uncommon, but worth discussing. Think about when a patient asks a doctor for antibiotics for a viral infection. They value the prescription, even though the medication will not do a thing for them, other than lighten their wallet. Of course, you will also have the necessary tasks that are not inherently value added. For example, you may have to move boxes from the loading dock and stock the production line. This is generally the sweet spot for waste reduction. When you identify the stuff that you have to do that you don't want to be doing, you should challenge the underlying assumptions you are making, and work to get rid of the waste buried in those beliefs. And of course, you have the head smackers. More often than you would think, when you dive into a process, you'll find activities that are both unnecessary and do nothing for customers. While it can happen anywhere, this is most common when two groups are exchanging information. One thinks the other needs something that they really don't. Let me give you two real examples. In the first, one group sent a product to another group for some specialized work. They filled out a form in triplicate, filing one of the sheets. The receiving group filed a second sheet, and upon the product's return to the original location, the first team matched the remaining sheet up with the original, filing it away also. When I followed the process with a team, we quickly realized that every piece of information was now in a computer system, and neither group actually used the form. In the second case, an administrative team researched short payments, spending quite a bit of time on them, including getting a review from their manager. When they sent the info on to accounting, anything under a certain dollar value was approved automatically. It represented over 60% of the items. All that research was never used. So, what do you think you should do in these cases? You'd stop doing the activity, of course. The conversation about waste leads to an obvious question. Why should you worry about it? Well, nobody goes to work saying, I think I'm going to waste money today. Everybody wants to be less wasteful. But there is more to it than just seeing waste as a bad thing. Waste reduction is a central tenet in nearly all of the lean tools. Each one addresses a specific form of waste and has a precise set of activities that reduces it. But an even more important aspect of waste reduction is shifting from passive observation to actively looking for inefficiency. Most people will try to get rid of waste that they come across in their daily travels. Fewer people seek out waste by purposefully reviewing processes. Becoming more active in one's approach to waste reduction is a critical step in lean.
As part of the lean training system this video comes from, we offer a variety of lean Lego training packages. These include our lean Lego flow simulation, mistake proofing or poka-yoke lean Lego exercise, and our visual controls and 5S lean Lego exercise. We've also got an office flow simulation for those not implementing continuous improvement on the shop floor. Click the links in the description below or click on cards that pop up on this video to learn more. We'll also add links at the end.
Now, it would be great if waste would just jump out at you. But unfortunately, it hides very well in all of the activities of normal operations. One way to make it easier to find, though, is to look for specific types of waste. When you categorize your thinking, it can make it easier to find problems within an operation. The basic categories of waste are transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overprocessing, and defects. There is also another waste, overproduction, that is in a bit of a category of its own. It is often looked at as the worst form of waste as it creates and hides all of the other forms of waste. One trick to remembering the different types of waste. TIM would. It is a mnemonic device with each letter matching one of the categories. In addition, there is an eighth waste that is often added to the list. Many people consider unused creativity to be a huge waste. People are valuable, and they are the only asset a company has that can actually get more valuable over time. When their potential is untapped, the company is leaving money on the table. Before we continue too much further with this discussion, I'd like to give you a warning. Don't focus too heavily on trying to figure out which category a particular type of waste goes into. While thinking about the waste by type helps you identify it, it doesn't really matter which bucket something goes into once you recognize that it is in fact wasteful. Imagine you see somebody walking around a big pile of parts. You could categorize that as inventory, transportation, or overproduction. But the truth is, it really doesn't matter what you call it. Once you identify it, you're going to go after it as a problem. I'm always surprised how much effort people put into getting waste categorized correctly. The truth is, once you see something as a problem, you've already done the heavy lifting. Let's start talking about the types of waste in more detail now. The first waste we will discuss is defects. For simplicity, a defect is anything that is not done right the first time. You might be inclined only to think of things that get to the customer as a defect. That is a mistake. Every time you spend resources doing rework, you are sapping your job satisfaction and hurting the company's bottom line. And that applies even for items that don't make it out to a customer. And remember, a customer does not have to be outside of the company. Every person you work with that you serve is a customer. And because these internal customers are a captive market, sending defects downstream creates strife within the team. Let's talk for a moment about the relationship between errors and defects. An error is the action that causes an undesired outcome or the defect. Often, the error is in the process or product design, which makes it impossible to make consistently good products. Correcting a defect permanently requires eliminating the errors once and for all. This gets harder to do when there is a disconnect between the error and the discovery of the defect. In general, the more time and space between the two, the higher the cost of the poor quality. Often, extra value is layered on top of the defect, which has to be stripped away and reapplied when the product is fixed. Avoiding problems is, of course, the best strategy, but if that can't be done yet, at least figure out how to identify defects early and avoid passing on poor quality. Before we move on, I'd like to talk about the relationship between office and shop floor defects. The two are tightly connected. Faulty products make office work harder. Schedulers have to adjust ship dates. Order entry folks have to contact customers about delays or field complaints. And the materials team has to order replacement parts. Likewise, when there is an error on an order, the shop floor people build incorrect products, or stockouts make assembly teams work more weekends. Modern business is so integrated, mistakes fan out and cause chaos. It gets even worse in a lean company where there's not much of a safety net. That's why eliminating defect waste is so important. Nobody wants to do more work than necessary. That's the basic concept of overprocessing. Extra, unnecessary steps fall into this category of waste. The biggest problem with this type of waste is that it looks like value-added work. A person is doing something that changes the form, fit, or function of an item. As a result, it appears to be effective, productive work. In some cases, this overprocessing step is simply a throwback to an earlier process. Think about the waste examples I gave earlier, the triplicate form and the write-offs. Both were the results of process changes that eliminated the need for that work, but nobody let the operators know. But more often, the work is simply the result of an ineffective upstream process. For example, deburring, the process of removing rough spots after a cut, is the result of a poor machining process. Make a better cut and the burrs won't be so prominent. Cleaning up dirt on a product is another example of how unnecessary work can be created on a shop floor. Offices have their share of overprocessing as well. Consider signatures. Most managerial approvals are the result of poor standards and ineffective processes. Improve the consistency of the work, and often the need for managerial involvement goes away. The next waste is transportation. Anytime a material or good or file or document is moved from one location to another, you are observing a waste of transportation. Transportation waste is a direct result of a poor process or layout. In a good, lean organization, you will often see U-shaped cells with streamlined flow. In other companies, though, you tend to see batch processes with an accumulation of inventory that must be moved, sometimes over great distances, to the next process step. This is all transportation waste that can be remedied with one-piece flow and product rather than process-oriented layouts. In modern offices, transportation waste is less noticeable with the proliferation of electronic distribution. But there's still work that goes into emailing documents, and many companies still have interoffice mail, even if it is diminishing. Transportation waste is generally reduced through better physical layouts, reduction of inventory that allows smaller workspaces, and cellular, product-oriented work areas.
Get more out of our Lean Training System videos with our Continuous Improvement Companion. It's closing in on 1,000 pages of great content. It is currently available as a download with a subscription to Vlaction Videos and as a license through our store. You can also get a free version of it by signing up for our newsletter. Click the links in the description below or click on the cards that pop up on this video to learn more. We'll also add links at the end.
Next up, motion. Motion waste is defined as any excessive worker movements. I'm going to give a specific example here about how you can easily get wrapped up in debating categories. Would walking be transportation or motion? I teach that walking empty-handed is motion, but carrying a part is transportation. Other lean practitioners may put all walking into transportation. But if you are spending more than a few seconds putting waste into a bucket, you are missing the point of the categories. Finding the waste is the important part. Bucketizing is secondary. Don't make the process of identifying waste any more wasteful but necessary than it already is. Motion is another one of the wastes that feels necessary. We get so used to doing our work that muscle memory kicks in and it begins to feel natural. Think about how mindlessly you pull the cap off of a pen and put it on a non-writing end. All that motion is fluid, but would be unnecessary if you had the pen mounted like the ones they set up at banks where the cap is fixed. The same type of programmed motion happens when we flip a part that was delivered to us upside down, or when we shuffle papers in a folder to the order that we need them. Often that work can be eliminated by simply connecting processes better, or by orienting parts and tools for use. We can even reduce our office motion by moving fields in a database into the sequence of the process, or by making shortcuts to the folders we use frequently. Once we start watching how we move in the workplace, we start to see more and more waste jump out at us. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I'll get started in this next section in just a minute. You've just experienced the waste of waiting. Anytime you stop doing productive work to wait for a process or machine to finish something is waste. Often this waiting can be in small chunks of time. The old hourglass, now a spinning circle, on Windows systems probably eats up millions or more hours of office time each year. Multiply out the few seconds here and there and it really adds up. On newer computer systems, the wait can be only a few ticks of a clock, but in older systems there is a greater likelihood of standing around even longer. Waiting is one of the more frustrating forms of waste for people because, unlike many others, it is so apparent. Waiting is a very noticeable waste, but unfortunately it is a hard one to correct in many cases. The reason is that people have to wait for things for a purpose. Either there is a lot of variation in a process, so it is hard to predict when it will finish, or the chance of an error is high, so an operator wants to be right there watching a machine for a problem. In both cases, the waiting is a symptom of a poor process. Inventory, another form of waste, is a strange beast. It is actually listed as an asset on financial documents, but it is anything but. Now, of course, you do need materials to do your job, but anything over and above what you need to do your work in the immediate future is waste. You should work diligently to lower the inventory levels. Reducing inventory, though, is a challenge. It is a big safety net. People feel unsafe when there is no material stash to rely upon if there is a problem. Now, when I am talking about inventory, I'm not just talking about materials. I am also talking about work in process. Employees in the office like to have a stack sitting in front of them so they never run out of work. People don't want to have nothing to do because it makes them feel unproductive. They like to have that pile to pull from. Some people even wear that crushing workload piled up in front of them as a badge of honor. The problems with inventory are numerous, though. The bigger the pile, the safer people feel, but it also means that customers have to wait longer. When you look at how work flows in most processes, for the great majority of time, the product or information is not being actively worked on. It is sitting waiting for somebody. And it is not just that the customer has to wait longer. There is also the risk that the product might go bad while it is sitting in a queue. Obviously, things like lettuce have shelf lives, but a big stash of hard drives can become obsolete in a hurry when new technology arrives. And even huge items like homes can become less valuable when a more current design trend pops up. And information changes. The longer a file sits, the greater the chance that a situation will change, rendering the facts obsolete. Think of a pile of loan applications. If they sit too long, some of the financial data will undoubtedly change. And those issues don't even account for the value of the money tied up in inventory. If that money was freed up to do other things, the company would benefit greatly. Reducing inventory is often an early target of lean practitioners, as it is highly visible. Better processes, Kanban systems, co-located work areas, flow, setup reduction, and the application of a bunch of other lean tools all focus on reducing inventory.
This video comes from Velaction's Lean training system, which takes a module-based approach to learning about continuous improvement. Modules include a PowerPoint presentation and student guides for every video, plus there are many exercises and quizzes as well. There's also a whole host of supporting content in the form of terms in our Continuous Improvement Companion and downloadable articles. Our modules are currently available in our store and as downloads at Velaction Videos. Click the links in the description below or click on the cards that pop up on this video to learn more. We'll also add links at the end.
But the biggest thing that will reduce inventory is to focus on getting rid of overproduction. Overproduction occurs when an upstream process produces more than a downstream customer asks for. Even if there is ultimately an end user already on the hook for the product, if the next process step can't get to the item in a timely manner, you are overproducing. The basic cause of overproduction is pushing work instead of waiting for it to be pulled. Pull simply means that the downstream process sends a signal upstream that it needs more. The classic way to identify overproduction is to look for piles. Overproduction, while the worst form of waste, is one of the easiest to spot. If a part or file is sitting idle, it was overproduced. One contributing factor is long setup time. When a big machine takes a long time to switch between products, the operators and the accountants like to run the machine for long periods. It keeps the machine working so there's a sense that it is efficient production. Unfortunately, when this happens, the long time to run a full cycle of parts means that despite the huge stock, it is not the right stock. Even with long production runs, big machines often face stockouts. Again, implementing pull to eliminate building the wrong materials and working to reduce setup times will help to get overproduction under control. Keep in mind that overproduction happens in the office too. Follow a stream of work, whether IT programming requests or engineer design changes, and you will see big piles in front of a few of the steps. That's the telltale sign of overproduction. Somebody threw the work over a wall to the downstream process when the next person was not ready for it. One final reminder, remember what I said earlier when I showed you the word search? Overproduction is the worst form of waste because it creates or hides all the other forms. Big piles mean big work areas, which means more transportation. Big racks mean that all parts are not presented at a working height, so squatting and reaching creates a waste of motion. The list goes on and on. Get rid of overproduction and everything else will start to fall into place. A final form of waste is unused creativity. Now, the 7 wastes I already mentioned are commonly attributed to Taiichi Ohno, the Toyota leader who is considered by many to be the father of modern lean. Unused creativity, though, has gained momentum in recent years and is often seen attached to the original 7 wastes as it is here.
Thanks for watching this extended free version of our Lean Training System module video. If you want to watch the whole video, check it out at Velaction Videos. If you want to make sure you don't miss the next LTS video that we post, please be sure to subscribe down below. We also always appreciate likes as it helps us get viewed more and makes us keep adding additional content. Thanks for watching, and best wishes on your continuous improvement journey.